Dad, can you hear me? Don't go, Dad. You can't leave us yet.
I'm afraid he's not responding. His high sugar levels have destroyed his arteries. I'm sorry, but it looks like it's too late.
Hi, my name is Ryan, and my wonderful dad's unstable blood sugar so nearly cut his life brutally short and sent him to an early grave. My dad is the best you could ever imagine. He loves his family with all his heart. The worst day of my entire life was 2 years ago, hearing those doctor's words. "Say your goodbyes," the doctor told us. "He only has a few hours left." The thought of losing him so soon nearly tore me apart in pain, but they didn't know my dad, because somehow, miraculously, Dad pulled through and woke up the next day. And not only that, he ended up completely resetting his unstable blood sugar in only a few weeks. What's more, he continues to amaze us to this day with his super healthy glucose levels, high energy, and incredible attitude. Every day I thank God that we are blessed to be able to count him among us. And it's all thanks to an unusual discovery from a remote Greek island that freed him from the pain of his terrible erratic blood sugar. In 3 minutes from now, you will see exactly what this secret is and how to use it for yourself. This is my dad's story in his own words of how he reset his blood sugar in a matter of weeks, and how you can too. Please watch and listen carefully to what he has to say.
I'd lost my mom, my dad, and my poor sister as high sugar levels and belly fat devastated their bodies, frying their organs from the inside out. Now it was my turn, as I lay facing the sterile hospital ceiling, powerless against the silent, deadly disease that ravaged my insides, knowing my time had finally come. At first, I felt furious at the medical professionals, the so-called experts, especially the diabetes and diet industries. Nothing they'd said had ever made the slightest difference. Then I thought about ending it all. At least that way, I could avoid the pain, the suffering, and the misery my weight and my erratic blood sugar inflicted on me. But I couldn't do that to my kids. Seeing their smiling faces for just one day longer was worth the world to me. Seeing them grow up, graduate, get married, maybe have kids themselves. As a father, these are things I always believed I'd enjoy with them. Now, the cold, hard reality hit me hard as I lay there, knowing my life was about to suddenly come to a brutal end. Now, they'd have to grow up without their father by their side.
I sobbed uncontrollably as I lay in that hospital bed, needles and tubes stuck in my arms, as I realized just how deep the love I had for my family really was. Now, I knew for certain this was the end. I'd never seen them again. Yet, strangely, as unusual as it may sound, this terrifying episode forced me on a most unexpected turn, which somehow saved me from a certain tragic and painful ending, and took me on a journey where I stumbled on an unusual discovery that would change my life forever, as well as the lives of thousands of others. A 1-minute after-dinner discovery from a tiny Greek island in the Aegean Sea, which exposed a shocking new cause of erratic blood sugar that has never been revealed before.
This same 1-minute discovery supported my healthy blood sugar levels in a matter of weeks, freeing me from the daily torture of suffering, worries about amputation and comas, and skyrocketing my energy levels, giving me the freedom to eat whatever delicious foods I want, whenever I want, and the happiness and confidence to live my life to the fullest. Because miraculously, my life didn't end that day. Instead, I'm alive and well talking to you, and I feel better than ever.
In fact, I don't like to brag, but my health is now every bit as good as a 35-year-old in his prime. I dropped a total of 63 pounds and feel like a new man. My glucose control is better than I've ever known, and my doctor can't believe it. And it's all thanks to this 1-minute after-dinner method I'm about to show you in this video.
Hi, My name's Paul Sanders, and as you've probably guessed, I'm not an expert doctor, nutritionist, or fitness coach. I'm a normal guy, probably just like you. I'm also a dad, a husband, and proud family man from Wisconsin. And 2 years ago, my sugar levels nearly destroyed me and my family, just like they did my parents and my sister before me. I guess you could say I got lucky.
Because I discovered an unusual after-dinner method that freed me from my daily pain, fatigue, and unwanted belly fat, something that gave me back my youthful energy, my positive outlook on life, my sharpness, and my confidence. I can guarantee that when it comes to your blood sugar, even if you think you've seen it all before, you've never seen this. A potent 1-minute discovery proven by scientific studies, including one by Harvard Medical School, to support healthy blood sugar levels in days or even hours. And your age, your weight, and the amount of time you've had blood sugar troubles makes no difference at all.
As sure as night follows day, this will work wonders for you, as it did for me and for the thousands of other former sufferers of erratic blood sugar.
Now you're probably feeling a little skeptical and wondering if you could believe any of this. Well, I'm not asking you to yet. All I ask is that you watch the next few minutes of this video and you'll see the rock-solid scientific proof that this unusual after-dinner discovery rapidly supports healthy blood sugar and enables you to enjoy the proud, youthful body that's inside you. And so we're clear, what I'm about to reveal is not a new medication, is not a restrictive diet, and it's not a workout plan. It's something that's very different that you've never seen before.
But I must warn you, you will be disgusted, perhaps outraged, when you discover why this breakthrough solution has been carefully hidden away from the public by the diabetes industries for so many years.
What's more, in only 1 minute from now, I'll also reveal the dangerous exercise that is causing deadly blood sugar spikes in millions of innocent diabetics the world over. You should avoid this lethal exercise like the plague because it actually makes your blood sugar worse instead of better. It caused me to collapse and almost get crushed by an oncoming truck. It's very important for you to see what this exercise is for yourself. Pay close attention because I will only share this information for a very short time. In fact, it may be taken down in a few hours from now. Shut out all the distractions and listen closely to everything I'm about to tell you. You're about to escape from your blood sugar hell, and it all starts now.
Like I said, my name's Paul Sanders, and I'm a health and safety coordinator from Appleton, Wisconsin. I'm 57 years old, and I'm married to my wonderful wife, Angela. We have 2 incredible kids. I'm a regular, hardworking family man, and I'm probably not much different than you.
My health is perhaps now better than it's been since my 30s, but believe me, it wasn't always that way. See, soon after I hit 40, my belly fat started expanding and hanging out over my belt. It was embarrassing, but even worse, I started sweating a lot and I'd get out of breath easily. My sleep suffered and my snoring became so loud, Angela would go sleep in the spare room. My energy levels dropped like a stone. I'd feel constantly exhausted, and I know it's embarrassing, but I started to find it hard to perform when it came to being intimate with my wife. I started to feel like less of a real man, a washed-out, middle-aged guy who'd let himself go. A visit to my family doctor revealed I had erratic blood sugar. I was shocked, but I shouldn't have been. My weight was ballooning out of control. I was getting heart palpitations at night. I felt tired and hungry. Dr. Anderson recommended I eat a whole grain diet and get more exercise. And you may think this would have helped, but in fact, that's when the real problems started.
I followed all his advice for 6 months, and during that time, I put on another 12 pounds, and I felt even more exhausted and hungry. This can't be right, I said to myself. Maybe there's something wrong with me.
Later that year, I was finally diagnosed as type 2 diabetic and put straight on metformin. This drug, as I understood it, would stop my blood sugar levels from getting dangerously high. It was meant to keep me safe, yet only a few weeks in, I started noticing strange side effects. One of them was daily heartburn that started making my life a misery. I had to stop eating my favorite hot sauces and couldn't go anywhere without my heartburn pills. Then there was the fatigue and dizziness I'd get whenever I stood up. My boss got so concerned about it, he stopped me doing client visits. My sleep became terrible. I would wake up at 3 or 4 a.m. every night for an hour or two. But worst of all, this daily pill I was paying for was making me fatter. See, my cravings became so strong, I couldn't keep my hands out of the fridge. My wife Angela had to hide the donuts, potato chips, and desserts from me. I'd be eating Cheerios at night before bed, and the minute I woke up, I'd head straight for another big bowl.
You may have noticed these side effects or symptoms yourself. Weight gain, cravings, fatigue. The side effects were one thing, but more worrying was that my sugar levels were not getting better.
They'd got steadily worse until after a couple of years, they'd always be above 170, sometimes higher than 240. I was a good 60 pounds overweight by then, and I got diagnosed with high blood pressure and nerve pain in my left foot. That's when my doctor told me to take insulin and gave me even more prescriptions. The daily injections sure made things painful and complicated, not to mention the expenses that emptied my wallet. He also told me to exercise, to eat bland, boring foods, and to avoid anything tasty. So I did as I was told. I ate healthy and started running for exercise. But only 4 minutes into my very first run around the roads near my home, I suddenly passed out and collapsed, almost getting hit by a passing truck who had to swerve to avoid crushing me. Don't get me wrong, exercise can be good for you, but only when you know when to do it. What I didn't know, just like most other diabetics, is that exercising can be deadly if you don't do it right. See, according to both the Mayo Clinic and the American Council on Exercise, exercising when your blood sugar is above 250, like mine was, is extremely dangerous. What happens when you're above 250 and you exercise is that the liver and kidneys pump out more sugar into the bloodstream to help fuel your muscles. But because your insulin levels are so low, you struggle to shift that sugar out of your blood and to your cells for energy, meaning your glucose levels shoot sky high and you could suddenly collapse and black out, like I did.
Now, I'm not the type of guy to complain, but by this point, I was miserable and tired, and I'd had enough. I had to ask myself why I was getting much worse when I was doing everything right. None of it really made sense.
I started to get suspicious of this new so-called treatments the diabetes industry was always coming up with. When I switched on the TV, all I'd ever see were high-budget commercials for new diabetes treatments. Were they really designed to help folks like me, or was their real goal to make huge profits for the powerful executives of the big companies? Then, after 5 long years battling high sugar levels, belly fat, cravings, and pills with horrible side effects, one day the unthinkable happened. You never think it will happen to you. It's always someone else. Maybe it's someone you read about in the news. But this time, it was me. It was a long, warm day, and the air conditioning wasn't working at my office. I remember feeling stressed and sweating excessively as I was trying to hit the deadline for an important project we had to submit that night. I had no time to pause for lunch, so I ate a cream cheese bagel at my desk. 1 hour later, I stood up to see my boss to discuss one final detail, and that's when I felt dizzy and slipped. I smashed the side of my head on a desk corner and blacked out immediately. I woke up in the ambulance. Oxygen mask on my face, sirens blaring out.
I don't remember much about the next day or so, except drifting in and out of consciousness, a deep feeling in the pit of my stomach, telling me my time had come.
He slipped into a diabetic coma. What's more, high blood sugar has stiffened his arteries, I heard a doctor telling my wife, Angela, as I was slowly coming to. We thought we'd lost him back there, but something, I don't know what, pulled him through. Maybe he got lucky. But frankly, ma'am, unless something changes real fast, next time we won't be able to save him. I don't know what was worse. Seeing my wife's entire body heaving as she sobbed, tears streaming down her cheeks, or seeing my 15-year-old son, Ryan, his eyes bloodshot, trying to stay brave and comforting his mom.
I felt guilty, ashamed. I was supposed to be the family leader, the rock who'd protect them and stay strong in hard times like these. I'd let myself go. And now look at me. I was type 2 diabetic, 60 pounds overweight, and tired. I'd done this to them. It was all my fault.
Lying there like a beached whale in the hospital bed, unable to protect my family, too weak to even speak. I felt pathetic. I'd become nothing but an emotional and financial burden to my family. I guess you could say that was my lowest point in my life, but it was all about to change. The next few days, as I recovered in my hospital bed, a friendly medical consultant from overseas took an interest in me during the evenings. His name was Dr. Andros Alexopoulos. He was from Greece, and he stood out to me as different to the other doctors I knew. He told me he was in the U.S. for 3 months as a part of a medical exchange plan where doctors share new therapeutic strategies. He came from an exotic and beautiful Greek island in the Aegean Sea named Ikaria. Ikaria is known for its stunning coves, rocky cliffs, and steep valleys, but there's something remarkable about it that scientists don't understand. See, Ikarian people live on average a whole decade longer than Americans and people in most other Western countries. 1 in 3 Ikarians lives until their 90s. Many live to be over 100 years old. What's more, Ikarians rarely suffer from the modern Western deadly conditions that we see so often in the U.S. The diseases that millions suffer from in the West are almost unheard of in Ikaria. Men and women are incredibly toned, healthy, and active at very advanced ages and without any exercise. One study actually showed 80% of Ikarian men between the ages of 65 and 100 were still enjoying a very satisfactory and active love life. That's 80%. Andros told me his uncle was 107 and he'd remarried at the age of 92. This completely stunned me. I'd never known anyone to reach 100 years of age, and very few even reach their 90s these days here in the U.S. In fact, for the first time in history, life expectancy is now getting lower for Americans.
To me, Ikaria sounded like a magical world where growing older was about happiness, health, family, and good relationships. We enjoyed chatting every evening while I was recovering. We'd talk about how different life was growing up for us. I loved hearing stories of his incredible island upbringing and how the locals lived.
He told me how sometimes men and women from pharma companies would come to try to find out the nutritional secrets from some of the locals so they could base a new medication on it. He showed me pictures of folks in Ikaria, and I couldn't believe it. Men and women in their 60s, 70s, and 80s all looked a good 20 years younger than their age. I also noticed Andros was in great shape. He was in his late 40s and didn't have an ounce of belly fat, even though he ate foods like pizza, pasta, and dessert almost daily. And I couldn't help wondering, what was the secret these people had to stay so healthy, slim, and toned and live for so long? I was thinking it must be their genetics or perhaps a daily exercise routine they had.
I told Dr. Andros about my own struggles with weight and my blood sugar, how none of their regular advice helped stabilize my sugar levels, how painful it was for me and my loved ones, and how I felt like a washed-up guy who couldn't protect his own family.
I tried low-carb dieting, whole grain, low-fat, exercise, and any remedy you can think of. I told him. None of it worked. Listen, if there's anything you can tell me, any advice at all, I'll give you whatever you need, I said. I was almost begging him. Dr. Andros listened to every word, nodding intently with a mysterious look in his eyes. Tomorrow is my last night here before I head back to Ikaria, Paul. We will talk then, he said. The next night, as Dr. Andros finished his shift, I saw him brewing some tea and adding some drops to it from a small bottle he carried. That's when he noticed me looking curiously at his tea and came and sat by my bedside. Paul, it's time we talked, he said. I leave to go back to my country tomorrow, so we won't get another chance. I know you're lying here now, desperate to fix your blood sugar and end the pain, the suffering, and the sadness. I know you want to lose 50 or 60 pounds and feel like your old self again. I know you want to spend time with your family as a happy, strong family leader, someone they can be proud of. And I can tell from our conversations, you believe you've done everything right, everything you've been told to do by doctors and the diabetes industry, such as watching your diet, trying to lose weight, and even exercising. Now, this may be hard for you to hear, Paul, but you're doing it all wrong. See, my opinion is that the root cause of blood sugar troubles and even your weight is not so much what you eat. It's not really carbs or sugar, like people say. And it's not a lack of exercise or being lazy, your family history, or even your weight. It's not your fault. See, nobody ever talks about the real cause of blood sugar problems in America. The true cause of your erratic sugar levels, Paul, is your slow nighttime metabolism. See, most diabetics focus on what they do in the daytime to manage sugar levels, but they're doing it all wrong. The truth is, your nighttime metabolism is far more critical to your blood sugar levels. You're probably wondering why. Well, let me explain, and I promise I won't get too scientific on you. See, when you sleep at night, your body switches to repair and deep maintenance mode. That's when you regulate your insulin, balance your hunger hormones, and repair deep tissue. It's also when you burn off excess sugar in your blood and convert it to energy. This is great for keeping your weight down and your sugar levels under control when it all works as it should. However, in your case, Paul, it's not working as it should. Your nighttime metabolism is the slowest I've ever seen. Your glucose levels are out of control. Your insulin isn't doing its job. What's more, you get almost no deep sleep, which is the type of sleep you need most to enter deep maintenance mode. And when you don't sleep deeply enough, you feel hungry all day, which explains your cravings and out of control weight gain, Paul.
I sat there on the bed, my mouth wide open in shock. I was completely blown away, speechless. I'd always felt there was something else causing my problems, something hidden that I wasn't aware of. Was this it? My own doctor had never mentioned my slow nighttime metabolism to me. Yet, we spend a third of our lives sleeping. So why did nobody ever talk about this critical time?
Trying to control your sugar levels with a slow nighttime metabolism is like driving a car with the parking brake on, he told me. You're doing everything right by starting up the car, shifting gears, and pushing the accelerator down. However, because you have the parking brake on, which is your slow nighttime metabolism, you'll never go faster than a turtle. And when that happens, it'll be impossible to burn off the sugar in your blood and melt away that troublesome belly fat of yours, Paul. So now you know the reason why nothing works for you to balance your blood sugar levels. The good news is, there is a solution. All you need is to do this one thing I'm about to show you, and you'll have the opportunity to increase your nighttime metabolism and transform your entire life. Now, here in the US, you probably know half the population is predicted to be diabetic in a few years. However, there are almost no overweight or diabetic people in Icaria. You're probably wondering what the difference is. Well, it's quite simple. In Icaria, men and women brew up a special drink around 1 hour before bed. The brew helps them drop into a super deep sleep, and it enhances nighttime metabolic rate, burning away all the sugar in their blood as they sleep. Men and women of all ages in Icaria wake up every morning with their glucose levels perfectly balanced, no matter what they ate the night before. This is because at night, while they sleep, the sugar in their blood is transformed to energy, charging them up like a high-voltage battery. This explains why they're so energetic and active all day long, even those over 90. When you take this nighttime brew yourself, it'll trigger a powerful metabolic reaction as you sleep deeply, almost like you're revving the engine of your car and burning off gas without moving. You'll burn off the excess sugar in your blood and help your body support your key hormones, such as insulin, charging up your energy levels for the next day. What's more, you can also balance your hunger hormones, leptin and ghrelin. When these important hormones are balanced, you won't feel the urge to snack all day. Before you know it, dropping weight and controlling blood sugar just became a whole lot easier. You've been trying for years to manage your blood sugar by controlling what you do in the daytime. But unfortunately, Paul, you've been doing it all wrong, which is why you ended up in a coma with damaged arteries. The truth is, the real magic happens at night when you're fast asleep. And if your nighttime metabolism is slow, you won't be able to enter the deep maintenance mode to burn off your sugar and balance insulin levels.
I was staggered by this point. I found it hard to take it all in. It was a shock to hear something so different to what the diabetes industry always claimed.
He continued, "Now, like I said, Paul, I'm happy to share the ingredients of this powerful nighttime formula with you, on one condition. If this works for you, I want you to promise me to share it with others to help them." "Yes, of course," I replied, feeling excited. He then disappeared for a few minutes, then returned with some notes that he gave me. I thanked him, and we said our goodbyes. I felt kind of sad he was going. I was truly blessed to have met this guy. When I looked at his notes that night, I saw there was a list of ingredients. "Take these 1 hour before bed," he'd written. I didn't know most of the ingredients, and frankly, I wondered if I should be skeptical.
I'd always been told that my erratic glucose was all about diet and my genetics. How could it be possible that these ingredients could ever help me? But then I felt like I could trust Dr. Andros and that he was on my side. He hadn't told me to keep taking expensive meds with painful side effects that made me feel nauseous.
In fact, all his advice was free and came from the heart. And it was true, he came from an island where perhaps the healthiest people in the world lived long, happy lives free of pain and sickness. He'd shown me the pictures of his relatives and his 107-year-old uncle. Everyone looked so vibrant, healthy, and full of life. It was the complete opposite to me and most people I knew here in the U.S. who were mostly in pain, heavily medicated, and with various health problems troubling us. So I decided to give this solution a try. After all, what did I have to lose? A week later, when I was allowed to leave the hospital, I didn't waste a minute and started researching the ingredients he'd given me. The first one on the list was a small red flower called hibiscus. People in Ikaria and some parts of Asia drink this type of hibiscus tea daily for their health. According to dozens of studies, including an important one done in Taiwan, this hibiscus supports metabolism and helps transform the sugar in your blood into pure energy. It helps decrease the amount of fat around the waist, too, and that could only be helpful for my sugar levels. Then he'd added Brazil nuts, which are a staple food most Icarians eat as an evening snack. And next to that, he'd written, "These contain chromium." Chromium? What was that? I didn't know, but when I researched it, I found that it was a powerful and highly beneficial mineral that supports healthy blood sugar and increases insulin sensitivity. In fact, a Harvard Medical School study done on 62,000 adults showed that the likelihood of type 2 diabetes was decreased by a huge 27% by taking chromium. Another study found that chromium reduced hunger and cravings in healthy, overweight women. Wow, I never knew nature could have such a powerful effect. The next ingredient was passion flower. Passion flower helps maintain healthy blood glucose levels by boosting metabolism, including at night. What's more, as a bonus, passion flower even supports healthy cholesterol levels, which is great for your blood pressure. Then there was chamomile that they drink in Ikaria. Now, you may have heard that chamomile tea helps you relax and sleep better, and it does. But this humble plant is also packed with antioxidants to help protect you from the toxic overload that's clogging up your metabolism. And according to Tabriz University of Medical Sciences, chamomile also supports healthy blood sugar levels. Then there was something called white willow bark. Now, I hadn't heard of the white willow tree, but it's native to Europe and Central Asia, where its bark has been used for millennia as a pain remedy. Long ago, ancient Egyptians and Greeks used white willow tea for pain management. And that's not all, because white willow bark supports healthy kidney and heart function, all while boosting metabolic rate. And when combined with other plants like passion flower, willow bark intensifies their effects. Next, there was hops. Now, you probably know that hops are used to make beer, but what most people don't know is that the right amount of hops can help improve deep sleep and maintain healthy glucose metabolism at night. Then finally, he added a plant called stevia leaf. Now, some know stevia to be a naturally sweet-tasting plant, but unlike other sweeteners, stevia is all natural, and the cherry on the cake is that it may even benefit those of us with erratic blood sugar. One medical study from 2010 showed that stevia supports healthy insulin and glucose levels in both skinny and overweight men and women. What's more, another said a single month of stevia supplementation supports healthy cholesterol levels. Well, I thought that sounded good. Imagine a delicious drink that actually helps support healthy blood sugar and cholesterol each time you drink it.
This mixture sounded very exciting to me, and I couldn't wait to get started. But I soon realized I had a problem. Lots of these ingredients were hard to find in the US. Sure, I could find some of them without any problem, but others took longer to ship from other parts of the world, and there were limited supplies.
It cost me an arm and a leg, but I finally got all the ingredients delivered a few weeks later. Right away, I started drying them out, grinding them down, and mixing them as Andros had told me. It took a fair amount of work, But after 10 days, late one night, I finally found myself with enough supply for a few weeks. I felt exhausted. My glucose levels were crazy high that night, and frankly, I was worried I could fall into another sudden diabetic coma. My eyesight was fading as I mixed my first blend and brewed it up. Honestly, I wasn't even thinking about if it would help me or not. I was more worried about my blood sugar. I drank my first cup, and it tasted delicious. Then that night, I don't remember falling asleep. But the next thing I knew, I was awake at 7 a.m., feeling bright and fully restored. I'd slept deeply through the night, and I felt refreshed with more energy.
Well, it sure helped me sleep deeper than I had for years, I said to myself. I felt a little lighter that morning, as though I'd lost a pound or two of weight that night. Every night, I took the special brew. Then each morning, I felt super, recharged, refreshed, and in a better mood.
I didn't get urges to snack all day like I used to. My weight was steadily dropping each morning I stepped on the scales. After 4 days, I checked my blood sugar levels. They were only a little steadier than normal. I started to think maybe I'd been wrong to believe this nighttime metabolic solution could work. Maybe I was right to be skeptical, but I had the shock of my life when I woke up Sunday morning, 7 days after starting. Like every morning, I felt refreshed after a super deep, relaxing sleep, but this day was different. I'd lost 2 pounds overnight. Then I checked my blood sugar levels, and I couldn't believe it. They were the healthiest they'd been in months. Now, that may not seem like much to you, but it sure meant the world to me. See, I'd never been able to get my readings down for the past 3 years, no matter what I tried. I went about my day with a smile that Sunday, with the energy to do some gardening and go for a walk with Angela. I was still a little skeptical that this would keep working, but I liked the results so far. As the days and weeks rolled by and I kept making my mixture, all the symptoms I'd had for years started to fade. The dizziness, the fatigue, and the hunger all disappeared. I started feeling more like myself again. I noticed my beer belly seemed a little smaller each time I looked in the mirror.
In total, I was down a good few pounds and was feeling lighter and more energetic. It felt great, and I was also enjoying my newfound energy. I could go walk the dog, do some woodwork, and soon felt strong enough to get back to work.
My colleagues had a worried look on their faces the first time I walked in the office. Who could blame them? The last they'd heard, I was on the hospital bed only inches from certain death. But the worry soon melted off their faces, and several of them told me how much better I looked. "You've lost a fair bit of weight, Paul," my colleague Mike told me. "There's something different about you." Rebecca from accounts smiled at me. Then as we reached late November that year, something incredible happened. My fasting sugar levels got to the healthiest they'd been since my early 40s.
I was blown away. I couldn't believe how quickly it had happened. Not long after, my worrying spikes suddenly stopped altogether, even after I'd eaten out at a restaurant.
I had my monthly checkup, and Dr. Anderson